Hi everyone, welcome to Khelben's Coin. My name is Ross. Today we're playing Dagon, a sort of video game that is based on the H.P. Lovecraft short story of the same name. I think it's more of like a visual novel than it is an immersive video game, like an interactive video game, but I don't really know anything about it. Let's get going. There's also DLC for it, which is exciting. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. Movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. I should say here that whenever I play Lovecraftian games on this channel, that I should mention that I am aware of H.P. Lovecraft's problematic nature as a human being when he was alive. And all I have to say to that is we are focused solely on the mythos and not the man. So we're setting that aside. We're acknowledging it. We're setting it aside for now and moving forward with what should be a really fun game.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Yep, this is how the short story starts. This guy's pretty much writing his final account, his suicide note, basically. Okay, some of the triggers hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes, look for the elder sign. Good. Great. Got it. Whoa.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
You would never.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
And that morphine was not bringing about that forgetfulness. So death is the only recourse for this person. And this is the story of what did they witness that made them come to this such drastic and dire conclusion. What do we got here? Morphine. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Ooh. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Roderick Serturner first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. That's actually kind of creepy. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse known as soldier's disease already posed a big problem in the United States. Oh, that's great. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Okay. Good to know. Okay, what's this then? Inkwell and Quill?
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German Sea Raider.
Aha! The German Sea Raider is a replacement. Well, the video game did replace that derogatory term I mentioned before I started streaming with German Sea Raider. Okay, I think this is point and click. I can't walk around. And the game did say it's pretty railroaded. Oh boy.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Oh no, that's the word. It was Hun, I think.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Alright, so we're being treated well. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. Okay, Hun is not a derogatory term. For some reason, I thought it might be. And if it is, I apologize. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. Oh, I see. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th July 1900 before they embarked to China. I don't think I need to read all this. It's not central to the story. It is interesting history, though.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
All right. Grab our provisions here. Launch the boat and leave.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
That moon is reflecting a lot of light. But look how beautiful the waves look. This game is visually pleasing so far.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh! Whoa! Hate that. All right, bud? How you doing?
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Oh. So our ocean has been replaced with this hellish black mire.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Yeah, there's our boat. Means we probably flopped on these tentacles. Flopping on calamari.
Though one
Space
might well
calamari.
imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
Ocean turned to land out of nowhere.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
I described it as calamari. I mean, you can come up with a word, right?
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
I like that line. Absolute silence and barren immensity. Lovecraft had a very strange relationship with vocabulary in his style. This is not about literary analysis, but you're going to see a lot of descriptors like that. A lot of times he's trying to describe something that the human brain isn't supposed to even comprehend. So his adjective use is always very foreign. And I think he designed it that way on purpose. And it gave his writing this really strange quality, like whatever you're reading is maybe true. Like it comes from a different universe, like these creatures do as well.
There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
I just realized what the words that just came out of my mouth were absolute nonsense. What I meant was he's trying to draw us into a world our brains can't comprehend. So he's using language that is foreign and doesn't fit perfectly. That makes sense. Landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Also a fan of alliteration. All right, we got our cursor back. Oh. So just imagine like the smell of dead fish and this sight and the inky blackness. This is a very unpleasant place. Let's see what our boat is all about. Maybe we can take shelter there. Oh, those sounds. No.
As I
No.
crawled into the stranded boat,
Unsubscribe.
I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some
This should be good.
unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Sure, yeah, volcano did this. Makes sense.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
Ocean is nowhere near us, but we're in another dimension.
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
That's a good point. No birds. No carrion. Although I'm not sure what carrion might want.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Oh! Oh, geez. What is that over there? This, it's like jello that breathes.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Oh, good. So it's getting crustier. Crusty is an adjective we want to hear right now.
I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Jeez. All right, so we're going to explore this, whatever this is.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
He's not the most active hero. Well, he is also adrift at sea for a number of days. So he's probably suffering from sun poisoning. And also he's gripped with horror.
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
We are going to kind of wander. So there are no real landmarks yet. There are some rolling hills, but... Oh, God. No. Dislike button.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Talking about this right in front of us. Any other trivia? Ooh, that looks like a tail of something large, or maybe a sort of, oh God, I don't know. No. All right, let's move toward the hummock. Step one, sit around with Black Mire for a day. I guess that's a good point. Okay, that's a humpback whale. That's an earthly creature. This is a lobster archway. Also, that's totally normal. Over here, we have a crab crane on top of an octopus pie. Yep, all earth things. We're good.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
It does look closer to me. But I'm sure when you're hiking all day, it feels like it should be closer. Gotten used to the sound.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Oh boy. This is a good idea.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
That is literally a waxing gibbous moon, I believe.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
Yeah.
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
That's okay.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
Let's go up.
Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Okay. Green is very dark. Where's this crest of the eminence here? Oh, gotta grab my pack. Of course, I need my pack.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
Oh boy.
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Can't look down.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
Ha ha! Nice.
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Interesting reference.
And of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Yeah, into the darkness we go.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
Yeah, I mean, that looks doable.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
All right, let's hop along, baby.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
Oh yeah, if you remember our shore playthrough, you know exactly what this is.
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Oh yeah. There it is. We're gonna make our way towards it.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Something built this.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Get closer.
Despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
Yep, it's a giant monolith.
Whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
Horrifying.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Okay, here we go.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
No, something, we got some markings on the monolith that we're going to read in a moment. Something kind of strikes me as interesting about this story. Because it's sort of set up to be like, he's right. A volcanic activity did bring up part of the ocean floor to the surface, creating an island. But it's clearly not of our planet, or at the very least, it's a relic from an age long forgotten by most living creatures, right? Humans, most of all. But yet, the entire time we're tracking the moon. The moon is here. It's the same moon as Earth, which is right now grounding him in the reality that he has not been transferred to another dimension or anything, that he is on Earth, and that his theory about volcanic activity creating this place, or at least lifting it from the ocean floor, rather, is rooted in some sort of reality, because that moon is constantly there, and Lovecraft keeps making reference to it. Let's get closer and see what's written on the monolith.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
Cyclopean is a word Lovecraft uses a lot.
On whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Here we go, baby.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
You got animals. Something that looks a lot like Big Daddy Cthulhu.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Alex Swedish, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. We are right there. We found a crazy monolith with things carved on it, so let's continue investigating.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings, journals and characters' notes, islands emerging from the ocean, that's very Call of Cthulhu, and fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Ego and the Whisperer and Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu Mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also include in a manner similar to Dagon, but okay.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Yes, we have the ocean surface, the society underwater.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Damnably human. Webbed hands and feet.
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
These things are whale-sized.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Yep. Imaginary. The operative word there.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Here we go.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Things and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Some freaky ass sounds.
I think I went mad then.
So this is a really important Lovecraftian mechanic. Witnessing something that, again, remember, was rooted in such reality. We had the waxing gibbous moon rooting us on Earth. Even though this strange volcanic lands don't rise out of the ocean. But still, the moon was there, keeping us grounded, keeping us sane. In Lovecraftian mythos, the Cthulhu Mythos, the human brain has a really difficult time comprehending certain concepts. Certainly witnessing great old ones or elder gods or whatever you want to call them will make your mind warp as it tries to understand that which is impossible to understand for a mortal human. So yes, I think I went mad then. You are probably right, sir.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Oh boy.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Crab claw, crab claw. Crab crane, sorry. Oh, we are freaking out. Freaking out, man.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
All that work and he just went back to the boat. He's lost his mind. He doesn't know what to do. He's not really in control of his actions. There might be some base instinct that is saying, GTFO, you know, get out of here. The only way he knows how to leave is by the boat.
At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
Where are my feet? Where are my footsies? Give me back my toesy woesies.
Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
I see ghost orbs.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
The journalist. Lover is a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. There publishes a journal called Illustrative. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Again, really interesting trivia, but not essential to the story of Dagon, so we will save that for another time. Boom. I have mind powers.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Oh, we've been doing some research. Unless this is someone else's study. Might be the ethnologist study. Can I just go there? I want to go. Let me do this first. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. Rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. Also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and the underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. Often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name. In Hebrew, the word dag means fish. But in Lovecraft works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, humanoid race with fish trace that resides in the oceans. Those are the people with the webbed fingers and toes we saw. They're called deep ones to us. I'm not sure Lovecraft ever called them that. I'm not sure. There's a lot of material that wasn't written by Lovecraft.
Perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Meaning, Lovecraft died fairly young. He had a lot of mental health issues. And a lot of people took his mythos and continued the stories, developed sequels and built the pantheon. Because Lovecraft only loosely referred to them as Great Old Ones, right? And then other people developed the concept of elder gods, outer gods, etc. We got a book here. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft to publish many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Derleth was like the central figure of continuing Lovecraft's works. What else we got? Ooh, the clock's striking. The bells, the bells. Looks like it's mid to late morning. Hi. Can I caress your cheek? What am I doing here? What are we doing here? What am I missing? Show me!
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Not a waxing gibbous moon, it's maybe a waning one. So back in the room where we were writing or doing morphine and writing our note here.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
So we are hopelessly addicted to morphine.
So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Ooh.
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
Yikes.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Mega yikes. Yeah, man. That's what there are cultists all over the world who have, come in contact with the Cthulhu Mythos and worship these gods as gods. And they want to wake them up or bring them back, I think that's kind of what he's alluding to.
The end is near.
Oh no! It's Dagon. At the door.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh boy.
It shall not find me.
The window. Oh, crap.
God, that hand!
No!
The window! The window!
Ah! smash. Ooh. We'll be okay. And that was Dagon. Wasn't that a lovely story? Full of wholesome goodness? Doesn't it fill you with warmth, joy? Man writes, suicide note, tells of an unspeakable horror that ruined his brain just by simply witnessing it for a mere moment. And then him dying. That'll do it for Dagon. Thank you all for watching Khelben's Coin TV. If you liked the episode, hit that subscribe button for future videos. I'll see you in the next one, and take care of yourself in the meantime.